Welcome back to our series on Microsoft Word skills. Today we are looking at preparing and sharing files. This includes rounding off our document in terms of content and layout, and I would like to take you through a couple of things that you need to consider before you can either print or send your document to someone else. The first thing is that you have to use simple language. Make sure that your grammar is correct and your spelling is checked. In a Word document, you can simply press F7, which will call up the spell checker and the grammar checker and will take you through the prompt. However, a spell check in Word does not mean that you don't have to read through your document on your own. The reason for that is that there are words that are spelled correctly but that are wrong within the context that you are using. So make sure that you proofread and have maybe someone else proofread your document before you print or send it. Then make sure that you use suitable fonts and sizes depending on your audience for which the document is intended. But there are a couple of rules not to use 11, 12 font size, for example, for a professional document. Do not have too many different fonts in your document, etc. Then make sure that spacing is correct and that the text is easily read. Empty spaces within a document is controlled by using paragraph spacing, line spacing, etc., page breaks. We do not want to see random amount of enters or spaces within the document. Then you have to make use of lists, either bullet or number lists. We can make use of columns or tables to improve the layout of text on the page. We know how to use tab stops. Again, this is how you can control space within the document without having to press space or tabs multiple times. You can make use of styles. This is specifically important if we want to use table of contents, etc. But we can also use page numbers, hyperlinks, bibliographies, etc., bookmarks, and so on. So make sure that your document is well rounded off before you do anything else. Then we have to inspect our document. Inspection can be done in Word 2016 by clicking on the File tab, clicking on Info, and then you can select Check for Issues, Inspect Documents. The inspection of documents will check for certain types of content, such as hidden metadata, personal information, comments and revision marks, track changes, etc. This function gives one the option to selectively remove this type of data. So if you don't want someone to know that you created the document, you can remove that data from the document. So important for professional documents, before you print or send, well, especially send and share the document with someone else, that you inspect the document. And then another thing that we can do before sharing our document is to check accessibility. We have an accessibility checker, and that is specifically used to check the document for issues that make the document less accessible for people with disabilities, blind, deaf, etc., or simple hearing disabilities. It's classified either as an error, warning, or a tip. And then within the accessibility checker, you can also check whether you have entered alternative text for images. Now, for somebody that is, for example, blind and has a text-to-speech reader. That reader cannot read images, but if there's alternative texts for the image, that can be read by a software like that, and a blind person will be able to know that, you know, what the image is all about. How do we access that in Word? You can right-click on the image or the diagram that you want to insert an alternative text into. Select Edit Alt Text, and then you can click in the alt text that appears in the side panel and enter the suitable description for that specific object. How do we gain access to the accessibility checker? You can click on File, Info, Check for Issues, and then there's an option that says Check Accessibility. Then lastly, I want to talk to you about different saving and sharing options. So when saving a document, you can indicate the following. The first thing is where it has to be saved. So you can choose a folder on your computer, or you can choose, a lot of computers have that, if it's connected to the internet, have online storage facilities like Dropbox or OneDrive, etc. available. So you can save it either locally on your PC or on the cloud. Secondly, if it must be converted to another format, so you can select the format that your document needs to be saved in. That includes, and I will cover that just now, if you have to save the document in an older version, because the person that you're sending the document to does not have the latest version of Office, etc. Then thirdly, you can indicate whether it must be sent via email attachment. So it does not necessarily have to be stored locally or in the cloud, but it could be directly sent via email. It could also be published as a blog. So yes, before we save this finally, we now have to look at whether the person can open the document if you send it in, let's say, in the 2016 version. If not, and you have to convert it to an older version, you have to check whether the document is compatible with the older version. You can imagine that if newer versions have new features added to it, but if you now save it as an older version, those features are not available in those versions. So you have to check to determine which feature or characteristics of the version in which you are working is not available in the earlier version, and you can do that with the compatibility checker. Again, similar to how to inspect and the accessibility, we can check the compatibility by clicking on the File tab, Info, Check for Issues, and then select the compatibility checker. Right, that concludes this video.